Hey folks, it's Andrew from GembaRed, and today we're going to be talking about different control schemes for your red light therapy panels. We've seen over the years there's been a massive evolution in the control screens and how you turn on and off your panels, and I think it's time to kind of go through this evolution with you, with all these different panels ranging from the most basic, like my GembaRed Reboot, to some of the more complicated panels in the market. And really try to break it down into a couple of core principles of how simple and how fast can you turn it on, and then how many choices are you being presented, and how much kind of decision fatigue is that going to put on an average customer. Because if you just have one switch like my simple GembaRed Reboot, a lot of people can criticize me and say, oh, it's too simple, it's basic, it's similar very much to the original Joovv design. So, I like to remind people the original Joovs only had one switch as well that controlled, turned on both red and near infrared simultaneously. You couldn't control them individually. So now we've gotten to this point where, companies kind of like Joovv are saying, oh, well, you get all these fancy controls on your phone, or we've got all these different features. But again, if you boil it down to the original, they started out just, again, with a basic switch, and there's a lot of elegance to that. So people can kind of shame me all I want, but, I like the design. A lot of my customers like the design. So I'm not going to let my ego get in the way whenever someone criticizes me. I put out what I like, and all this is kind of my opinion. So, people want to criticize me, or say it's simple or derivative. I think I like to remind people that, all these lights are kind of derivative from the grow light industry. And, it's really folly when companies are trying to patent these designs, and, they're taking Chinese products and they're saying they designed it. They're saying they patented it. They say they've got something proprietary. It's time for people to, take a little bit of humility, and these companies, they don't need to represent themselves as more than what they are. They can just sell products. So anyway, let's start, take a look. We're gonna get pretty close and personal with these panels, and then, like I said, we're gonna look for two key things: how fast can you turn it on, and how many choices is the customer gonna have to deal with when they do this. So let's take a look. So again, GembaRed Reboot, really simple, on-off switch at the top. The cord comes in at the bottom, so it's nice, it's down low. And then again, one switch turns on both red and near infrared. You don't get a choice of red and near infrared. So maybe some people would prefer to have that choice, but we'll talk more about that anyway. So again, you just walk up to the panel, on, off, you're good to go. Very simple. Then we saw, an evolution of giving people the choice of red and near infrared. And, I like to give credit where credit is due. I think I saw the first company doing this was Red Rush, but here we see an SGROW VIG 1000, which I reviewed before, and it comes with the red and near infrared option. Again, it's not a revolutionary concept because a lot of grow lights have like a flowering and a growth mode, so a lot of them already have two switches. And then we'll also notice that the plug is coming out the top, which I heard some people on Reddit complaining about this. Oh, almost lost my panel. Some people on Reddit were complaining about this. That obviously if the plug's at the top and most of your outlets are down near the ground, and you're going to be staring at a plug the whole time while you're doing your full body treatment, it starts to get, it's probably, I would say this is literally the worst place to put a plug. Again, it might be fine for a grow light because you're hanging it horizontally, it doesn't matter. And the grow light producers make it cheaper because there's less wiring you have to do. You just, you have the wires inside that you just run short little wires to the switches, and it's very simple. But again, for a body light, for red light therapy, it's It's probably the most inconvenient spot. So very kind of poorly thought out spot. It's just a carryover from the grow light industry. So anyway, but you have to walk up to it, avoid the cord, and red, near infrared. So that's 2 switches. So we went from 1 to 2. And again, that might not seem like a lot, but again, you got to do this once a day, maybe twice a day. And you think about all the extra motion of doing 2. And usually I say, 99% of the time you're using red light therapy, you're going to use both. Unless you have some sort of condition you would want to avoid that, then you probably wouldn't have bought a panel that had both and then only use half the LEDs. So anyway, so you went from 1 to 2. Okay. This is the SUNSRED, the Butterfly Island technology panel that I just reviewed. It came from Alibaba. And these guys are pretty revolutionary because they put their control scheme on the left side of the panel, and everyone else is on the right side of the panel. So these guys are rebels. They've got their switch here. Power is still pretty high up, so again, indicative maybe they were a former grow light producer. Then we do this on, but that power's on the control scheme. Then we need to say, okay, I want red, and then I want near infrared. Then you see the numbers kind of flicker. So again, and then you can control your time, which is a nice convenience. But now, again, we've gone to 3 button pushes just to get you a standard treatment. So we go 1, 2, 3, okay. And then, like I said, there's a choice now. You've got to choose red and near infrared, and we'll talk about that more. Okay, now we're doing the SGROW MaxPro. And I gotta find the switch on the back. Yeah, here it is. Well, that's its sub because it's got that modular thing. I'm not going to talk much about modular activities because that's a whole nother thing. And so again, this might seem familiar. I just watched a couple of Alex Fergus's reviews. He's been doing a good job reviewing different control schemes from major brands, and you'll see that there's a lot of similarities from some brands. Who knows who's getting what from who? And so, okay, so we have M and T and OK. M is minutes. Oh no, M is mode. And then that's supposed to be an R, and that's supposed to be an I for red and infrared, okay? Okay, makes sense. So you can kind of choose them, and then you press OK. The T is time, okay. And then you've got them both on. But again, now we're going to leave, now we're kind of leaving on this switch in the back because it's, a little bit harder to get to. You've got this controller that's going to stay on all the time, and I measured a Joovv controller pulls almost a watt of energy. So you're kind of wasting a watt of energy all day, 24/7, if you leave it in this kind of standby mode that you can just walk up and do this. And so, if you care about the environment and you could care about electricity, then you got to reach for the kill switch in the back. So again, that could be a switch here, a couple button presses to make sure you're on red and infrared. Maybe you're even going to set the timer. A bunch of button presses there. Then you press OK. A lot of button presses. So again, think about this convenience you got to do every day, especially if you want to do the kill switch too. So anyway, so that was a lot. And now we get to the Joovv 2.0, the one with the metal case still. I got it over a year ago, I think. And here's the switch back here. I was looking for it. Really don't want these to topple over like dominoes. Okay. So kind of boots up. Everything's preloaded. 20 minutes. Looks like red and near infrared is preloaded. So again, all I have to do is press the play button and it starts. So again, this is obviously very thoughtful of them. To make it very simple, the defaults are to have red and near infrared, which is good, which is what most people would do anyway. Default gives you a timer. So you know, again, you can play around all you want with these, but it's nice you can just walk right up to it, press the on off. Oh, what's going on? Okay. And press that and it goes. So, but then, like I said, you could still be sucking some power if you don't do the kill switch. But again, okay. And we'll mention with the Joovv, the third generation, they have added what? They've added the pulsing. So there's, I think, you know, it's nice they have the tactile buttons too. And then they also added pulsing in their next generation. So now you've added another choice. You've got red, near infrared, and pulsing. Every time you use a Joovv, you have to choose, you know, kind of what's your best configuration. Hopefully they gave it to you for a meaning. And now, you know, that's a little bit extra decision fatigue that you have three options, red, near infrared, both, and pulse. So that's four options actually. And then I'll remind you, you have to choose your distance from the panel, and then you have to choose how much time you're going to do it. So that's a lot of choices. And a lot of people are still trying to grasp the basics of distance and time and intensity, and companies are now adding in pulsing and all these fancy features. So again, and now we've got BioMax 600. I just got used from somebody. So we turn it on with a kill switch, so similar to the Joovv and the MaxPro. You've got the master switch. And again, this is the idle mode, so it just stays on and displays us all day, I guess. And apparently, I was sold this, this is like a year-old panel. This is one of the panels where they kind of silently swapped that you can't control red and near infrared. So I'm limited by that, and I think a lot of customers were surprised and upset when they got a panel that had no, I think the standard ones have like a menu and you can choose red and near infrared. This one doesn't seem to have that. All I can do is change the time. So again, for me, that's kind of nice because all I have to do is press one button and I know both red and near infrared is on or off. They're both on. But again, it's kind of funny, you know, and we know Platinum LED abruptly just upgraded these panels again, and you can do a slider on their screen for how much red and how much near infrared you have. So you can go from 0 to 100% of red and 0 to 100% of near infrared. And are they going to explain to people what the significance of, oh, do I want 45% red and 57% near infrared for such and such problem at such and such distance for such and such time? You know, if you add 100 options for red and 100 options for near infrared, and you've still got time and distance and all these things to think about, you got 100 choices, 100 choices. That's 1,000 new combinations for you to figure out every time you use a panel. Which of the 1,000 combinations of percentage of red and near infrared should I use for my new Platinum? You know, it's a lot of decision fatigue, and most people would just do 100% of each. It's kind of, you know, a feature that will probably be underutilized. Okay, now we're going to the SAIDI BS 1000, and this one has the pulsing frequencies, so it's got 1,000 pulsing frequencies. And again, I'll find the switch on the back, just that little guy. So I turn it on, and then this one has a very light touch control, like you gotta be... So I press the power, and it looks like near infrared is on, which is kind of freaky. And then I want to add red. But it's a very light touch, it's kind of funky. And then you have to make sure, you have to look very close at here, because you can't really see these little indicator lights very well. But I assume no. Anyway, so you can't really see the indicator lights very great. And then you got modes and frequencies, so you can do different modes. So I think that's 10 hertz, 40 hertz. Those are kind of standard. Another mode, I can choose up to 1,000 different frequencies, maybe. How do I do it? I don't know. I had another version of this that seemed easier, but 4? What is 4? Is that 4 hertz? Watch your eyes if you're sensitive to flicker. Yeah, that's like 4 hertz. And again, you can do pulse the you can pulse the red or the near infrared or both, and you've got 1,000 choices for pulses. And like I said, you can see it obviously. It goes on, off, about 50%. So you lose 50% of your average intensity. That's a standard calculation that you see in all the pulsing studies. And, when they don't account for this in the studies, they actually fail the study. I've got an example of that. And it could just be irritating to your eyes and your brain. And, in some cases, if you do it right in the right context, it could be beneficial to your brain. I don't know. But again, it adds a lot of choices now. You gotta choose which wavelengths, which ones you want to pulse, time, distance, all these things. And all these button presses. And oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry. And so anyway, that, it's too much. And you don't get a lot of good feedback from touching this controller. They do include this guy, I think. They include this digital remote, so I can turn it on and off. But sometimes, even if I want to check the red and near infrared, you don't get feedback on the controller. And then the controller, you can tell, is a radio frequency controller, so it's sending out a little radio frequency signal, where, like, your TV controller uses a infrared, controller, which is, so again, if you want to use a radio frequency, that's something else. So let's do a quick wrap up, but hopefully you've gotten kind of a perspective of the madness of where this industry is heading with all these different options and controls, and how many buttons you have to press, and how many choices you have to make. So hopefully that helps give you a perspective on the evolution of the control schemes for these panels. How many choices you have to make, how many button presses you have to make, the energy consumption if you're leaving your panels in standby mode. Nobody's really talking about that. They should maybe tell you how much watts they're pulling. And so again, we're going down this path, and this happens a lot in this industry. They go down this path, oh, you need all this extra intensity. And they need to reel back from that. You don't need too much intensity. Oh, you need all these features. And, they should really start to roll back and simplify their panels, simplify their designs. And even if you include a ton of features, have your standard default feature kind of a one button press situation, so you don't have to make a lot of choices. And, you can have all these features if you want to play around and have some fun, but really most of the time you're just going to use red and near infrared. You're going to be 6 to 12 inches away. You're going to do 10 to 20 minutes, maybe front and back. That's it. You know what I mean? So you don't have to go crazy. You've got timers on your phone, so I don't include, a timer in my panel. You can make your own decisions when to turn it off, when to turn it on. So that's it. It's very simple. Hopefully this helps consumers kind of visualize, think about their process of how they're going to go about their day and turn on their panels and use them. And hopefully we get this feedback back to more manufacturers that help simplify their panels, get the feedback from their customers and say, hey, we'd like it if it was simpler and easier to use. So a lot of times my information helps benefit my competitors and manufacturers. And, we'll see if I ever get credit for this kind of stuff. But, overall, it's pretty obvious. And, again, I'm an engineer and I design with the customer in mind. That's what we're trained to do. And so a lot of companies, they might, cheap out because they're grow light producers and they have really inconvenient features, but it's cheaper for them to produce it this way. And so, you know, you're paying a premium a lot of times from these brands, so you want them to really think it through and make it convenient for you. So hopefully that helps. This was a lot of setup, so maybe if I'm sweating, there was a lot of moving, a lot of heavy panels today. You know, you can let me know your feedback, let me know your preference, and I'll consider that obviously in my own designs. And thanks for tuning in.